You go into your shower feeling, but as soon as you reach for the Irish Spring, your day immediately gets better. That crisp, fresh, unmistakable Irish Spring scent zings your brain and awakens your senses. So when you finally emerge from the shower, 37 minutes later, because you pay the water bill so you can stay in there as long as you want, you're ready to take on the day and smell great doing it. Irish Spring Body Wash and Bar Soap. Fresh, green, Irish. Shop now at Walmart.
Whether you're ordering wings for the game, whipping up a 7-layer dip, or ordering pizza, there's something about football that makes you want to eat. And this football season, Uber Eats has the best deals on game day food, no matter what you're craving. From 2-for-1 pizza to buy one, get one wings. Uber Eats will be dropping new deals each week all season long. Uber Eats, the official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now for game day. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details.
It's time for a Big Blue Kickoff Live.
Nobody can ever tell you that you couldn't do it because you did.
On Giants.com.
You know what I saw? New York Giant Prime.
And the Giants mobile app.
17-14 is the final. One touchdown, we are world champions. Believe it, and it will happen.
Part of the Giants Podcast Network.
Let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs. Have some fun.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Thursday's edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. John Schmeelk, Matthew Citak with you, usual Thursday crew. The phone number is 201-939-4513, 201-939-4513. You guys wouldn't believe it. Citak actually levitated in here today. His feet weren't even on the ground. He's floating. That's how good he's feeling right now. Hello, sir.
Hello. Yes, I am still riding on Cloud 9 after my Mets win last night.
And you were there.
I was there. I was at Citi Field. That was definitely the most electric I've ever heard that stadium. It might have been the loudest I've heard, any stadium, period. Because, it's been a while since New York got to host too many playoff games, especially like high leverage, series on the line, game clinching games like that. So yeah, once Francisco Lindor hit that grand slam, I've never heard a stadium that loud. It was buzzing, and I was so happy to be there.
Nick's had a couple of those moments last year. Very different than my Game 2 experience, Yankees-Royals on Monday, which was not great. Okay, I'm going to ask you something. Someone that's not a Mets fan, and I follow baseball, but not the Mets that closely. What's the OMG thing?
Okay, so
the Grimace thing I know, but I don't know the OMG thing.
So the Mets signed this utility veteran infielder, Jose Iglesias, to a minor league deal.
Okay.
This guy's 34 years old, has been on like 10 different teams across his MLB career.
Okay.
And the Mets signed him to a deal in the offseason, called him up, right around the time that they started to get hot. And this guy, Jose Iglesias, moonlights as a Latin pop star.
Get out of here.
Candelita. And his new song was OMG, and it has literally become like a hit on the Latin pop charts. Actually, tomorrow they're releasing a remix featuring Pitbull of this song. I mean, the Mets' success has definitely helped bring this song into more of a national spotlight.
And they played it at the stadium, I'm assuming?
Now it's the home run song. Anytime someone hits a home run, they start playing Oh My God or OMG. I mean, it's become, even before it became the stadium song, it was the song that the Mets started playing after they won a game, right when they first started to get hot back in the beginning of June. And now it is fully... we have fully embraced it, and it is
right.
Schmeelk, when you have time, you have to watch the players, watch him perform it on the field, because all the players join in with him, and I'm not a Mets fan, but that's fun to watch.
Oh, so the Mets.
When is he performing on the field?
He did it in the middle of the season.
The Mets do this thing during the season where they'll a couple of games each year they have a post-game concert, and so there was one game where he was the post-game concert.
No way.
And he performed his song, and the whole team ran out. Luckily, they won that game, so everyone was in a good mood. And the whole team ran on the field and were like singing and dancing with him. It was awesome.
All right.
So the vibes are good in Queens right now. Let's keep it going.
Honestly, I thought your answer was going to be extremely silly, like something social media based. That's actually pretty cool.
I mean, it's just one of the many gimmicks the Mets have had this season that have helped spark this run. So
Now, did he perform the song in a Grimace costume? Did that happen at any point?
No, I don't think he's done it in a Grimace costume. Although Grimace he wasn't at the game last night. He was at the game before.
He was at Game 3.
He was at Game 3.
Okay.
There were plenty of fans in Grimace costumes last night, including one sitting right behind me, which I went to the game with my dad, was made sure to get a selfie with him in this fake Grimace, like some 10-year-old kid in a Grimace costume.
Well, it was like a 10-year-old
kid. It was like a little kid.
Yeah, that's pretty good. All right, well, hopefully the Yankees will join you guys in the League Championship Series tonight against the Royals.
I would love it. As I've said, I would love nothing more than a New York World Series.
It'd be nice if someone other than Giancarlo Stanton got a hit. Like, that would probably help the cause a little bit. But we are where we are, and hopefully they could figure out a way to walk away with the win tonight with, hey, look, this is why you paid Garrett Cole, right, to close out a Game 4 on the road. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, not a whole lot of news, folks, today. Howard and Madeline covered most of the stuff yesterday, but we'll kind of react to it, and then we'll look ahead a little bit to the Bengals here. Matt and Paul will have their full preview of the game on tomorrow's Big Blue Kickoff Live, as always. A couple things. Malik Neighbors did work on the side yesterday. We'll keep an eye on the Twitter sphere. Why don't you keep an eye on Salomon's Twitter feed to see if we have any further update. He did work outside on the side yesterday, which if this goes the way it usually goes with concussion protocol, he'll wear the non-contact jersey and actually participate in practice today. We'll see how he reacts to that, and then theoretically he could be on the way to getting cleared. So
yeah, I will say, I know, yesterday the fact that Malik was still in the concussion protocol seemed to, raise some red flags and alarms for some people, but he was out there on the field, on the side field.
The fact he's outside is what counts.
That is a big next step, and that puts him on pace. As long as he keeps on progressing at this pace, one would think he has a good chance at clearing by Sunday. So just because he's still in the protocol is not a cause for alarm or concern. He's progressing through the protocol. Hopefully today he takes another step, and hopefully he's cleared by Sunday.
Correct. The other part of the news that broke yesterday surprised all of us, and frankly, I think surprised the players in the locker room too. I asked Aziz Ojulari about it yesterday. He goes, yeah, I was like, Kevin, what are you talking about? Like, Kayvon Thibodeau had wrist surgery yesterday. They are not giving a timeline. They're saying week to week. If you put that week to week into the Brian Dable translator, usually that means at least 2. Because usually if the guy's going to be playing 2 weeks from now, he's still kind of day to day, but he doesn't make it quite this week, and then he's ready to go the next week. So maybe it'll be different this time, but if you use the week to week translator, based on what we've seen, it's a minimum of 2. Obviously, if you look online at what the injury is, timelines can differ. But of course, if you it depends what he can play with in terms of apparatus. Who knows? So let's just figure at least a couple of weeks for Kayvon. We'll see if they put him on IR by the end of the week. I think that would be a telling move based on whether you think it's going to be 4+ or if it's less than 4. Obviously, if he's not on IR by kickoff on Sunday, that probably tells you they think he could be back in fewer than 4 weeks, which would be great news.
Yeah, that would be big. Honestly, at this point, we really have no idea.
No idea.
As John just mentioned, we were all just as surprised as everyone else when this came out yesterday. There wasn't, there were no reports about this. Typically when a guy gets hurt, before the head coach speaks on Wednesday for any team, you'll see the Ian Rappaports or the Adam Schefters tweet about it on Monday or Tuesday. There was no word about this injury at all. So we were all taken a little aback, but as you mentioned, when coach says week to week, that could mean Kayvon could be back next week. That could mean we won't see him for a month. We have no idea. All I can say is chances are for this week, he will probably not be out there. Coach did not express, directly say that. But given the fact that Kayvon literally just had surgery yesterday morning on his wrist, I don't think he will be out there for Sunday Night Football.
Yes, and correct. Yeah, just from wound care alone, it's impossible for a guy to get back after a week. Especially if it's not an arthroscopic procedure and you're actually cutting somebody open. And they didn't go into the details of Kayvon's surgery, but usually scopes are for things like cartilage, and there was no cartilage in a wrist. So, I think I'd be surprised if it was. So yeah, I think it's just going to be a little bit. And I think the interesting thing about the Kayvon Thibodeau injury here, Matt, is look, we know Ojulari is going to step in and get most of his snaps, right? But the Giants really haven't used a 4th edge rusher this year. It's basically been those 3 guys taking up most of the edge snaps. Boogie Basham, I haven't looked back. I feel like if he hasn't been inactive every week, he's been inactive maybe 4 out of the first 5 weeks. He hasn't been on the field much at all.
Yeah.
So I imagine he'll be the next guy up. Though you have Tom and Fox on the practice squad, you have Benton Whitley on the practice squad, so you do have some other options here. Do you mix in Patrick Johnson? Do you mix in Isaiah Simmons in there in spots if you want? So there are some different options here. I'm curious to see who picks up those kind of that second team edge rusher snaps where Ojulari was getting 20-something snaps a game. Who picks up those 20-something snaps?
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. And it's really a shame because Kayvon had been starting to pick it up the last couple of weeks. In terms of just pressures, the last 2 weeks he had 5 pressures each game. Mm-hmm. He started to get in the action with the sacks and stuff. So it's a loss. It's definitely a big loss for the Giants defense. Going into the season, everyone spoke about how the strength of the Giants defense was going to be the front four with the front four, but really the big three with Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, and Kayvon Thibodeau. And the three of them really had helped, spark this Giants defense to an NFL high 22 sacks. Even though Kayvon, I think, is only down for like 1.5 sacks, but there were some plays where he was getting pressure, flushed the quarterback out, and someone else finished it up with the sack. So.
Yeah, that happened in a play last week, by the way, where it wasn't even the play he got a half sack in. I think it was either Dexter or DJ Davidson got the sack on that particular play, where he basically forced Geno to step up in the pocket and he ran into a sack on the play. So yeah, 100%.
Exactly. So the Giants, I saw this stat today, are one of only, I think, 4 teams in the NFL that had 3 different players with at least 15 quarterback pressures through 5 weeks. Obviously, the 3 being the big 3. So yeah, it's going to leave a hole in the pass rush, no doubt about it. But it is a great opportunity for Azeez Ojulari to step up. And unlike in years past where Azeez has played with Dexter Lawrence and Kayvon, he's never played with the opposing offensive line having to worry about Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns. Those are 2 guys that are going to be the top 2 priorities for the Bengals offensive line, which should leave Azeez Ojulari in some one-on-one situations. And we've seen him have success in the past. Mm-hmm. I know, last season didn't go how he would have liked, but he had 8 sacks as a rookie. And then the following year, he only played a handful of games, but he got a sack in almost every game he played in. So he has a chance to step in and sort of fill Kayvon's role. I'm not going to say to a T, but he has a good opportunity to really step up and show that he can still be a very solid pass rusher in the NFL.
Yeah, I'm honestly not that concerned. I don't think it's that big of a drop-off from Thibodeau to Ojulari, to be honest with you. I think Ojulari will do fine, especially pass rushing. I think, run defense, maybe Thibodeau is probably maybe a little bit better setting the edge than Ojulari is at this point. I'm curious to see, and now we can get into the matchup stuff here. The Bengals right now are number 1 according to PFF in terms of pressure rate allowed this year. It's under 25%. Now, a lot of that's Joe Burrow reading the blitz, getting the ball out quickly and all that stuff. But Orlando Brown is a very capable left tackle, mountain of a man.
Yep.
And then you have rookie Amarius Mims, who is frame-wise quite as big, not quite as big weight-wise, but Amarius Mims is like 6'8". He's also a large guy. He injured himself last week, but he practiced in full yesterday with a calf injury, so I imagine he's going to be good to go at right tackle. I'm curious to see how they're going to decide to match up there. We saw them put Brian Burns almost exclusively over the right tackle last week. He only played 1 snap over the left tackle the entire game. Again, trying to get him up against Stone Forsythe. It would be the weak link on that Seattle offensive line. Ironically, Kayvon actually did pretty well against Charles Cross at left tackle. So I'm curious to see if they like that Burns matchup this week against the rookie Mims at right tackle, maybe they like the smaller, quicker guy in Ojulari to try to get low and take advantage maybe of some of the lack of foot quickness that Orlando Brown has at left tackle. I'm curious to see how they decide to work that matchup.
Yeah, that will definitely be interesting to see. Next Gen Stats actually had a stat about Mims today.
Oh, what do you got?
That he, despite started 2 games and saw some action in a 3rd game, he has the 6th lowest pressure rate among right tackles.
Really?
Allowed only 1 sack, according to Next Gen Stats, which we know.
Interesting.
Sometimes Next Gen Stats has slightly different numbers than PFF or other places, but yeah, it's he's young, he's a raw. I still think he's a kind of a raw rookie.
Oh no, he's raw. No,
I think their plan was when they drafted him. I think they were hoping to let him sit for potentially the entire season.
Their starter got hurt. What was
starter
it?
got hurt.
I forget who it was, but they brought in like one of these like reliable vet types, and then I think he got hurt in week 2, which is why Mims had to go into the game. I'm not even sure he's listed on that because I think they had to put him on IR, so he might not. I'll look it up. But So we'll see. I loved him coming out. I think he has upside out his he's going to be a really good football player. I don't know if he's there yet though, because to your point, one of the knocks at him coming out is that barely played at Georgia. Like he played at the end of the 2022 season, right? And then he started at the beginning of the 2023, then he got hurt again in 2023. So there's not a whole lot of experience in terms of him with snaps. So I think it'll be interesting to see how they decide to go about that. And getting to Joe Burrow is going to be very difficult because he's going to detect blitzes. It's going to be hard to fool him. He's everything. To me, he's the modern day Joe Montana, where you're not going to fool him. He's going to know everything you're doing. I had Devin McCourty on the John Settle podcast. That's going to go up this afternoon, folks. Go check it out. And, he compared him to Tom Brady. And he's got that play with Tom Brady for 12 years. He compared him to Tom Brady. He said, look, I mentioned he reminds me of Peyton. He goes, yeah, it reminds me of Tom, playing him in practice. Like, he told a story about how, their line, it was in 2021 or 2. I don't remember which one he said. And the Patriots are looking at it, and at that point in the season, they had some new defensive players, so they were trying to simplify things on defense so everyone can play fast and you're not trying to do too much. And he basically went to the DC and the team that week. He goes, if you watch Joe Burrow, if we play this way, he is going to murder us. If he knows what you're doing, he will complete a pass on every single situation because he knows exactly where to go to the ball, and he has 2 dynamic players outside to throw the ball to. So that's going to be the trick this week. Can you make Burrow hold the ball for that extra second to give the pass rush a chance to go home, to make a little confusion on the back end? But here's the other thing. Whatever they run, he doesn't care. Wherever he thinks he's going to have less coverage, is it on Higgins' side? All right, I'm going to T. Higgins. Is it on Jamar Chase side? All right, I'm going to Chase on this side. And you can't go double both of them. You can't. When you have 2 dynamic outside guys, one of them is going to get some version of less attention or single coverage, and that's where Burrow's going to go. So can you make him think twice about what coverage you're in? Can Shane Bowen do like that post-snap rotations and stuff like that to make him hold it for a second, let the pass rush get home? Maybe he has some indecision on where he's going with the football. Because right now, Matt, I can list 1,000 stats. 1,000. I got them all here. They all say the same thing. The Bengals offense might be the best offense in football right now, at worst top 3, and it is humming in every possible way.
Yeah, I mean, you look at their record, they're 1-4. You would think, that must mean that the Bengals offense isn't living up to expectations. No, they are doing their part.
Oh, yeah.
It's the defense that's been struggling. Joe Burrow, he's got to be a top 3 MVP candidate as of right now. He's just on fire. Certainly helps when you have 2 elite wide receivers on each side, one on each side of the field in Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. But the last couple of weeks I brought up, for the opposing quarterback that the Giants have been facing, their splits between when they get pressured and when they're not facing pressure. Obviously, you expect the numbers to be significantly better when they are not getting pressured. That's obviously a given.
And they are for almost all quarterbacks.
Yes, for pretty much every single quarterback. So I'm going to tell you the splits for Joe Burrow, pressured and no pressure.
I'm curious about this.
No pressure. He has a 74.5 completion percentage for 1,114 yards, 9 touchdowns, 1 interception, and a 114 passer rating. Elite numbers, what you'd expect from one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. Now his numbers when he is getting pressured. The completion percentage, it only drops to 60.7%.
Which is still pretty good.
He's still completing over 60% of his passes. When I gave that stat for Dak Prescott 2 weeks ago, it was like a 44% completion percentage. Geno Smith was like 48 or 49%. Burrow is still completing 60% of his passes, 256 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick, passer rating of 111.6.
How about the 9.1 yards per attempt, which is higher under pressure than not under pressure?
It's insane.
Oh, man.
Joe Burrow is playing the best football of his career.
That's crazy,
which is kind of nuts because he's been a very good quarterback for years. Injuries have kind of been the roadblock for him to having, I guess, sustained success. But yeah, he is really just firing on all cylinders. He's got the Bengals offense humming. I mean, T. Higgins missed the first 2 games of the season. was a little bit slow when he first came back, but last week's game against the Ravens showed he's back to 100% health and, back to being a top at least, 15 receiver, at least, in the NFL. I mean, I think over the last 3 weeks, he's been targeted more than Jamar Chase. And that's with Jamar Chase's absolute explosion of a game last week where he had 10 receptions for 160-something yards and 2 touchdowns. Yeah. T. Higgins also had 2 touchdowns and 80 yards last week. So this is probably the top wide receiver duo in the NFL right now. Mm-hmm. There are some very talented duos across the league, but this has got to be number one.
And look, Jamar Chase is right with CeeDee Lamb. He's right with Justin Jefferson, whoever else, Tyreek Hill, whoever you want to put in that top tier of wide receivers, he's there. Yep. He's right there. So another big-time challenge. It's just to your point. After that bad first week where they only scored 10 points against the Patriots, since then, 25 points against a good Chiefs defense, 33 points against the Commanders, 34 points against the Panthers, and 38 points against a pretty darn good Ravens defense. So this is going to be a bear for the Giants defense to slow them down. The good news, Mr. Citak, is that the Bengals defense kind of stinks. You can look at all the numbers and all the stats. They all tell you the same thing. Bottom 4, 5 defense in football, however you want to look at it. The numbers are really, really bad. Now there are some things where you say, all right, well, they lost a lot of defensive linemen. They've gotten B.J. Hill back. Sheldon Rankins might get back this week. That'll help. The Commanders, they're playing really well, so you understand them scoring points. They did hold the Chiefs to only 26 in week 2 before they had all their injuries and Rice was healthy and they had still all their guys out there on the field. So there are some things you can point to. We all knew Lou Anarumo is a very good defensive coordinator. I think by the end of the year he'll figure things out, but they haven't yet. And other than Trey Hendrickson, they have not been able to generate any sort of pass rush. They have 6 sacks this year as a team. It's as many as Dexter Lawrence has by himself. They lost They lost Dax Hill in the secondary, one of their slot corners. DJ Turner will step in for him. So it's a struggle right now to get pressure, to cover. They stopped the run pretty well last week against the Ravens. They were only 30 carries for 70 yards until that last Dexter Henry run, and then that kind of bumped all the averages up. But we could be in for a little bit of a shootout on Sunday night, Matt. It could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up that, holding the Chiefs to 26 points. That the Chiefs, their highest point total of the season is 27. So it's only 1 point fewer than their season total.
That was before they had a lot of their injuries, though.
Although I think that's the game Pacheco got hurt in.
Maybe. Yeah, it could have been. Rice was still there, though.
Rice was still there, yeah.
And I think that might have been the game Hollywood Brown got hurt in. He was hurt in the preseason, right?
He never.
That's right. He was hurt in the preseason. That's right.
But yeah, this defense really doesn't matter what stat you look at. They certainly are struggling. I mean, they come into this game ranking 31st in points allowed, 26 in yards allowed total. Rushing defense, 30th in yards, not great. Passing defense, a little bit better, 19th in passing yards allowed. However, their corner, Cam Taylor-Britt, who is, of all the corners in the NFL, I think the one that's been talking and chirping to his opponents the most.
He's been a little up and down.
He has allowed the second most yards on deep targets this season.
Yeah, he had
159 receiving yards on attempts 20 or more air yards down the field.
He got pulled out of a game a couple weeks ago for not playing well, and he's their best corner.
Yeah, exactly. So this just goes to show, and even more so when you look at situational football for the Bengals. Their third down defense, 31st in the league.
47.5%.
Their fourth down defense is 30th, and their red zone defense is 25th.
Yep, 67%. Two out of every 3 red zone trips ended a touchdown.
Yeah, and as I mentioned on Tuesday, that's including the overtime drive by the Ravens last week where Derrick Henry got that run to the 5, and then they just kicked the field goal to win the game, so they didn't even attempt the touchdown there.
And I mentioned the sack totals. That's tied for 29th with 6 sacks.
Yeah, so the defense is struggling. I will say, I did see reports, it was either last night or this morning, that the Bengals held a players-only meeting. And I believe the report said it focused around the defense, because I don't know how much criticism you could point towards the offense.
No, it did. Dan Hoard's going to be in the Giants Huddle podcast tomorrow, the Bengals play-by-play guy. It was very much of a defensive bidding.
Yeah, so, I mean, these player-only meetings, we obviously see them across all sports every single year. Sometimes they work. Other times it sort of just pours some gasoline on the fire of whatever's already been going wrong.
That's true.
we'll see what happens. Regardless of what's happened the first 5 weeks, I will say you can't just completely overlook the Bengals defense.
How many times have we gone into a game and said, boy, we said the Cowboys rush defense, it stinks, and the Giants rushed 24 times for 26 yards. So
exactly. They still have a very good defensive coordinator who's very good at coming up with game plans to take out the opposing team's, top playmaker. And they have Trey Hendrickson, which we said Tuesday, I think is one of the most underrated players in the NFL. Year after year, he's constantly underrated, and every year he ends up between 12 and 15 sacks.
He's a top-tier pass rusher.
Yeah.
He's very, very good. He's no different. Like the way Giant fans think of Brian Burns, that's how the Bengals rightfully think of Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah.
And Hendrickson, frankly, has even had a little bit better production than Burns has had over the past couple of years. So he's a really, really good player. Him and Andrew Thomas were going to be a fun matchup to watch on Sunday night. But you're right. I mean, they have Mike Hilton, a veteran cornerback out there. You mentioned Cam Taylor-Britt. He's made some great plays. He made some not-so-great plays, to your point on the NGS stats you had. So, yeah, I mean, this is going to be an opportunity for the Giants, but do not underestimate. The Bengals have a pretty long history the last 2 or 3 years of playing good defensive football. Now, this is also what you see when you see a lot of your resources being put into the offensive side of the ball, right? You signed Joe Burrow. Orlando Brown got a lot of money. A lot of their big money has gone into the offense. So then you have to let some of your defense guys go. They don't have Jesse Bates anymore. He's gone, right? Mm-hmm. So you lose guys. It happens. So we'll have to see how the Bengals step up and play in this game. Anything else before we take the calls?
Yeah, just real quick.
Sure.
You talked about the matchup between Hendrickson and Andrew Thomas. Trey Hendrickson is lined up on the right side edge 94.2% of snaps this season, which means almost every single snap he will be matched up against Andrew Thomas. And honestly, if I had to choose, nothing against Jermaine Illuminor, who's been very solid, but I'm happy with having Andrew Thomas go one-on-one against Trey Hendrickson for most of the game.
I want my best guy on their best guy, right?
Exactly.
And, Hendrickson will win a couple of those because he's really good. But, yeah, I would much rather have my best guy and their best guy. And then Jermaine Illuminor will be on the other side dealing with their other pass rushers the Bengals run out there. So it'll be fun to see, folks. Giants Huddle Podcast, I mentioned a couple times already. Giants app, giants.com/podcast. Search for Giants Huddle or Giants Podcast Network. That's the name of the podcast feed now on your favorite podcast platform. Devin McCourty later today. And then tomorrow we're going to have our normal Friday podcast. Going to talk to Dory Jackson tomorrow morning. It's going to be some stuff on the Giants, but frankly, I'm just kind of want to know what it's like to have to cover Higgins and Jamar Chase. Remember, he came from the AFC, so he has some experience against Joe Burrow also. So he's going to talk a lot about Shane Bowen's defense and where he thinks this group is in terms of learning to play the way Bowen wants. And remember, he was in that system in Tennessee, so he has a really good feel for that system. That'll be on tomorrow's Giants Huddle Podcast, along with Dan Horde, play-by-play guy of the Bengals, and Bob Papa's interview with Brian Dable. So check it out. All right, let's do some phone calls.
Wait, real quick, just because we were keeping an eye out for
what
this,
do you got?
From Dan Salamone, Giants.com. Brian Dable said Malik Neighbors is in the same spot as yesterday. They're taking it day by day. Devin Singletary is advancing. John Runyon is still sick, but Dable is hopeful that he will be good to go for Sunday night.
Okay, well, that's a long way to recover from an illness. So hopefully Runyon will be good to go. Some illnesses are worse than others, though, so you never know. We'll have to wait and see. And then we'll have to wait to see when Malik Neighbors... Remember, he does have to practice, correct? Once before he gets cleared. I believe he does, doesn't he? Doesn't he have to be in a red jersey and take contact and then get cleared the day after the contact in practice? I think that's a rule, correct?
You might be right on that.
I'll have to double check it, but I'm pretty sure that's true. That's the final stage, but still plenty of time to get that done.
Yeah, which means we hopefully will see him out in a red jersey for tomorrow's practice.
I think theoretically he could do that on the Saturday walkthrough.
Okay.
I think that
we have heard of guys
counts.
getting cleared on Saturday,
correct,
and then playing.
Because it is technically, even though it's a walkthrough, it's technically a practice. So I think that still counts in theory. But we'll have to keep an eye on that as we move forward this week. Luckily, the Giants offense show without Neighbors last week, they could have a lot of success. So
very true.
201-939-4513. Wilson in Roxbury leads us off today. Hi, Wilson.
Hey, Johnny, man, how are you?
What's up, buddy?
Wilson.
Hey, listen, I don't like predicting games and nothing like that, but I am gonna predict something. I think Daniel throws for over 300 yards this Sunday, and if we run for over 100 yards, I think we win the game.
Well, Wilson, that's the thing. You might have so much success running the ball that Daniel Jones doesn't have the attempts to get over 300. You know what I mean?
Well, that's better because I just happened to see like a little bit of a Carolina game, against the Bengals, Johnny.
Oh, Andy Dalton moved the ball on that, man.
Oh my God, that was a one-score game in the fourth quarter.
You're absolutely right.
A fumble or something. But you know, and you know, I know that they are a great offense. You're not going to stop them. But listen, they haven't faced like the push up the middle that the Giants can generate. You know.
Well, I mean,
can move them off the spot.
I mean, Wilson, real quick. Chris Jones is on the Chiefs.
Yes.
Yeah,
Chris Jones is awesome.
I know he is, but listen, I watched the Chiefs. I think, not because I'm a Giants fan, but I think the Giants as a whole, is a better defense than the Chiefs. I really do. As a whole, and they're getting a little better and they're getting healthy. I'm just saying that if we can hold them to, if the Giants, if it's like 20, if they can hold them under 24 points, I think the Giants have a great chance to win in the game. And
I think that's true.
And I think that we will. I have this crazy feeling, Johnny, that in the fourth quarter, I think the Giants are gonna be. If they don't do anything crazy, I think they will have the game in hand. I just don't think. They haven't seen a defensive like the Giants yet, and I think let's put it this way, Danny. If time of possession is everything, and I think the Giants, you know how it is, they like starting 2, starting 4. I think the Giants gradually really go down the field, and I think we have a lot better chance than a lot of people think that we have. I have, let's put it this way, maybe before I go. I have a better feeling of us winning Sunday than I did when we played against Dallas. And the reason why we didn't win against Dallas is because we never got the lead. If we would have gotten the lead in the third quarter, it would have been a different game. But Dallas always played with the lead, and that was a detriment to us. If that's water under the bridge.
No,
but
I hear you.
I don't think we're gonna. I think Brian Dable learned, and I think against the Bengals, he's always gonna try to get points. I don't think field goals are on the table. On this game, I think touchdowns are on the table, and I think Brian Dable knows that. And,
Got it. Thanks, Wilson.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate the call, man. Look, you have to score points. If you can hold the Bengals under 24 points, I think you win the game. I think, Wilson, that statement's correct. The Chiefs have a Super Bowl winning defense. Let's calm down before you start saying you're better than the Chiefs defense. When they carried the Chiefs to a Super Bowl championship last year, the defense was better than the Chiefs offense last year. Like, their defense was awesome.
Easily.
So let's relax that they haven't seen a good defense this year, because the Chiefs defense is very, very good. But yeah, if you can hold them, Matt, to 24 or less, I think you got to feel good about it. That'd be the fewest points that the Bengals have scored all year since week 1.
I was going to say, they've scored 38 last week, 34 the week before that, and 33 the week before that. So if you can hold them to 24 points or fewer, then yeah, you definitely have a good chance at winning the game.
And the Ravens defense, by the way, isn't what it used to be, but they're still not bad.
No. I mean,
by any means.
That was the next point I was going to make. They did give up 38 points, the Ravens defense last week, but literally the week before, they kept the Bills to 10 points. Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills to 10 points. So
the Cowboys didn't score a lot of points against them until garbage time in the fourth quarter either.
Yeah, so yeah, the Ravens defense, as you said, not maybe what it was last year. Still a good defense, and they put up 38 points. Last thing I just wanted to note was Wilson's obviously called in many times, at least that I've been hosting, plenty more when I have not been on. I think that might be the first time I've heard him with an optimistic prediction for Daniel Jones.
No, Wilson likes Daniel.
He does.
No, Charlie does not like Daniel.
Charlie.
Wilson is a big Daniel backer.
Okay.
Wilson
must have been thinking about.
Wilson's more anti-Dable than he is anti-Daniel.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I was getting Wilson confused with another caller then.
I have to create a flowchart for you. Which callers like and dislike which parts of the team for you, so you can manage that a little bit better. I can have Pearson work on that for you. Not a problem. Let's go to James in Georgia. He's up next. Hi, James. James, you there?
Hey. Oh, yeah, I'm here.
What do you got, man? You're on the air.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're on the air, buddy. Go ahead.
I'm fine. I've got a couple of quick things. How y'all doing today, by the way?
We're good, man. What do you got?
My bold predictions from before the season started, some of them are still holding true, and some of them are straight out the window. one where we're 3 guys in double-digit sacks is still up for play. Because it looks like our man Dexter Lawrence is balling out. He'll probably end up, if it goes the way it's going, he can have about 17 sacks on the season, which I'd have a question. Where would that rank him in defensive tackle play? I don't know, amongst some of the better defensive tackles in the league, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but of course, he has to keep on this pace, James, which would be very tough.
If he has 17 sacks, then he is in the Defensive Player of the Year running.
Yeah, and frankly, he is right now, but it's super early, obviously.
Yes, and I was, thinking maybe Burns and Kayvon, we'd probably have to combine their numbers, but they can obviously end up close to 10 individually, and Pinnock can end up with 10 this season.
Pinnock,
and the rest of them are probably. Yeah,
I know Pinnock has 3 already, but I would be shocked if he has double-digit sacks.
I mean, I have a serious question. In the history of the NFL, has a defensive back ever had more than 10 sacks?
I don't know. Not that I can think of, but.
And I guess Palomalu maybe.
He was more of a pick guy than a sack guy, but who knows? All right, James, what's your final point?
So I was just going to say this about the game. Our defense still is doing their thing. We haven't allowed a 30-point game, even when prior to that, the week prior to that our opponents have put up 30, 40 points. Our defense hasn't allowed a 30-point game yet. So even though everybody's talking this might be a shootout, this and that, we can hold the Bengals offense to under 30 points like we've been doing with everybody who scored 30-plus the week before, and turn it into a Giants type of game. We just have to score at home, which has been our Achilles heel so far and in prime time itself. Let's go Giants. Let's go Liberty. Let's go Yankees. And I'll talk to you guys next time.
Cold.
It's left cold. Out the Mets.
It's cold.
That's just rude.
That's for you.
You could say let's go Mets and let's go Yankees. I think we'd all take a Subway Series. I mean,
James must have been talking to Dottino this week.
I'm glad I'm on with you today and not Paul, because Paul wouldn't have let me talk for 5 seconds about the Mets without cutting me off and talk about the Yankees Game 3 win.
I'm sure we have plenty of big-time Met fans that are also Giant fans listening.
Oh, I know. I hear from them on Twitter.
I'm sure.
And I appreciate when they reach out on Twitter saying, let's go Mets.
Yeah, I was included on one of those tweets the other day. I get that. It's all good. Yeah, look, guys, let me just say this. Let's not make this the game coming off the Brown game, heading into the Cowboy game, where we sat here for 3 days and I got nothing. But they're not going to just beat the Cowboys. They're going to have the game in hand in the fourth quarter. This is going to be easy. The Cowboys aren't the same as they used to be. Everybody, don't overreact to losses. Don't overreact to wins. The Bengals are a good team. And James, for the record, you said you're more worried about the offense at home than the defense. Shane Bowen's a good coordinator. This defense has played well. This week, my worry is about the defense, just because of the opponent that they're playing and how good they are. There's nothing against the Giants' defense, the personnel, the coaches. They're doing a good job. But this offense is real. Might be the best passing offense in all. In fact, I'll say it. This is the best passing offense in all of football. Name one that's better.
You can't.
The Ravens, overall, with their run game combined with everything, maybe they're in the conversation. But other than that, there is no better passing attack in football right now than the Bengals.
I was going to say, looking at the schedule for the rest of the season, I mean, this has got to be the toughest offensive matchup, or Giants defense versus an opposing offense for the entire season. And the only other one that it would be in the conversation, where it honestly would be a coin toss, is the Ravens game. And again, these two teams just played last week, and it was 41-38.
Yeah, and look, you get Kirk Cousins in Atlanta, but he's not on that level. But that obviously, they have a really good passing attack there too. Dallas and Philly are good passing, good offenses. But no, I'm with you.
Nothing against those other teams that have good offenses. It's just the Bengals and the Ravens. They might be the two best offenses in the NFL, or at least two of the top 3 to 5 offenses in the entire league.
The Bengals will throw the ball. And by the way, it's not like Joe Burrow is like, oh, it's going to be a cold night. He's going to have trouble. It gets cold in Cincinnati too. He'll be fine.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow is awesome. Let's go to Tim in Charleston. He's up next. Hey, Tim.
Hey, Matt. Hey, John. How you guys doing?
We're great.
Good. What's up?
So I couldn't get through last week with the phone issues. I can't wait till you have all three lines working again. But that being said,
Us too.
I just want to touch real quickly on last week. One, my prediction for last week was 24-20, which turned out to be not too bad, in the end. But also a couple other things. One is I wanted to touch on Jones, which is throughout the Vikings game. I think we have to throw that out. In the last 4 games, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception, which was on the Hail Mary at the end. 952 yards, which would be over 4,000 for the season if he played 17 games. And 3 of the 4 games were over 100 QB rated. And I say that I've sent that out to a bunch of Giants fan friends who were always hypercritical of Jones. So I'm always coming to his defense. So
yeah, and by the way, also, Tim, I'm going to throw out some more advanced stats. Those are great. He's top 10 in EPA per dropback. He's top 10 in success rate on offense. Their DVOA has been good. Like, every number tells you in the last 4 weeks, Daniel Jones has played very good football.
And the major rating services have him ranked league-wide, even after 5 games, at 12th to 13th in the league and rising. So we'll leave that there. So that being said, one thing also is I think that the thing I was honestly most worried about going into last week was whether Drew Phillips was going to be able to play. And he might not have done anything sensational statistically, but I think he's such a solid and steadying presence as a tackler, as a coverage guy and slot. I think and he should be able to play even more this week if needed. And the way they pass, I imagine he will be. So that's a key. So my prediction for yeah, and then I got one last thing for Matt. But my prediction for this week is the Giants. Now here's a caveat to it: Giants 33 or 34, depending, right? 6 scores, I guess either way, or so, and the Bengals 27. Now, if the Giants can get more dominance, not like last week, but more dominance in time of possession, I could see that coming down on probably up to a touchdown on each side.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I like our chances. And I have to, Matt, I don't know if you noticed, I said your name first today. That's because let's go Mets.
There we go.
It could be another miracle year. That was amazing last night. I actually, when Lindor hit that home run, I was in the middle of a Hail Mary. I mean, the actual prayer, not the pass.
Thank you, Tim.
So anyway, thank you guys.
Appreciate it, man.
Thank
Have a
you,
good
Tim.
one. What inning did Lindor hit the home run in?
Bottom of the 6th.
Ah, that's pretty good.
And let me tell you, they have the Giants. The Mets had, I think it was their either the 3rd or 4th separate inning that they had the bases loaded, and they were unable to score a run up until that point.
Sounds like the Yankees.
They left so many runners on base. Even after the Grand Slam, they left more runners on base. I'm just glad that Francisco Lindor hit that home run, because otherwise that would have been the big talking point of today, because they must have left, 15 men on base, something like that.
As Tim mentioned, by the way, we still are working off that one line, folks. So if it's busy or you can't get through, or if it keeps ringing, just keep trying. As soon as the caller on the line clears, we will get the next person back up as quickly as you can. We're still working through the issues. I test the other set of lines every day. And they're worse than they were when we were having problems last week. So it's being worked on by Verizon. This is beyond a Schmeelk issue. I don't know how to fix phones. So Dom, I tried, but Dom made him worse. So I tried to get him to help. That was also a terrible failure. So Paul brought in a rotary phone. That also didn't work. He was trying to use that. So we are where we are. At least we're working. We can hear you guys. So again, if you have trouble getting through, just keep calling. As soon as the line clears, you'll probably even hear a little ring in the background if you're listening to this on the podcast. That means somebody else is coming through. So
but I do want
that's kind of where we are.
I want to touch on something he just brought up.
Go ahead, please.
Drew Phillips. As you mentioned, returned last week. He was on the field, I want to say, for maybe 40% of the defensive snaps, around that number. Obviously, assuming that he got through okay without any setbacks, which we haven't heard from Coach Dable that there were any, you would hope that number would increase going into this week. He was this week, Pro Football Focus, so take it what you will, but ranked him in the top 10 of their rookies for the season. Granted, he did miss some time, but they have him down for 71 snaps in coverage, 8 receptions for 37 yards.
I feel like that's not a lot of snaps in coverage. He's played in 3 games, right?
He's played in The first 2 games, yeah, but even the first game he didn't play.
You know what? He only
lot.
played like 8 or 9 snaps, right?
It was
That's a good
week
point.
2. He played 92%.
No, you're right
and then
about
he got
that.
hurt
Good
early
call.
week 3. And the reason I bring it up is if he is able to play more, that would be a big boost to the Giants defense because we've spoken about Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. They're both incredible. They both spend at least some time lining up in the slot.
Jamar Chase especially. Higgins is more outside, but Chase will spend a significant amount of time in the slot.
This season, Jamar Chase's slot percentage is 33.3%. So 1 out of 3 passing plays, he's going to be in the slot. And even T. Higgins, while the number's lower, 23.4%.
Oh, that is actually higher than I thought it would be.
So
interesting.
If Drew Phillips can play, you know, I don't want to say every snap, but that might be unrealistic, but a majority of snaps and line up when those 2 guys are playing in the slot, that would go a long way in helping to slow down this passing attack.
The line is open, by the way, 201-939-4513. And look, that's going to be huge. You know, can you cover Jamar Chase in the slot? You put a guy of that size, and guys, look, he's basically, if you want a Giant fan point of reference, he's Malik Neighbors. Like, he's except a better, more polished version.
I was going to say, with a few years of experience of doing what Malik has done in 4 weeks.
Correct. So you're going to have to, tackling here, Matt, is going to be a huge issue.
Oh, yeah.
Zach Moss, the running back, we'll see if he plays. He did not practice yesterday. He's dealing with a foot injury. It did not look good when he went down last week. I'm not sure if you saw the injury.
I did.
It was kind of a violent tackle. They really grabbed him and kind of jerked his foot, and he had trouble getting up.
Was another hip drop?
No, I don't think it was a hip drop. I think he kind of just dove and kind of pulled at the ankle. I could be wrong about that, though. But frankly, look, Zach Moss is a good player. Chase Brown's got juice.
Oh, yeah.
I would rather have the ball in Zach Moss's hands than Chase Brown's hands. Chase Brown, and if you guys remember our draft coverage 2 years ago, I love Chase Brown. I didn't understand why he was a 4th or 5th round pick. I would have taken him in the 3rd round that year. I think he's quick, he's fast, he's got good vision, he's there passing down back, he can catch the ball out of the backfield, he's a big play guy. Chase Brown is a heck of a running back. So as much as we're worried about the receivers and everything, you got to tackle Chase Brown, and then you got to tackle Jamar Chase when he catches the ball. He has 2 plays this year where he catches the ball and evades like 4 or 5 guys on run after the catch. One of them is the one that Carl Banks features in strategy this week, and he runs long for a touchdown. Joe Burrow this year, down the field, guys, he's creating big plays, but right now, completions of 20-plus yards, the Bengals are just tied for 22nd. You know, Joe Burrow isn't this like down the field merchant where he's chucking it down the field all the time. When he does it, he's effective. He has a 105 quarterback rating on passes 21-plus yards down the field, but he's more of a surgeon, an assassin type. Like, he'll just find where the easy completion is, and he'll take the easy completion. But then you got to tackle after the easy completion because Brown, Jamar Chase, big play guys if you can't get him to the ground.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Jamar Chase, you know, catch a short or somewhat intermediate pass, break a tackle or 2, and all of a sudden he's gone for a 60-yard touchdown. And he's been doing this for years now.
Correct.
So he is one of the best in the NFL at that exactly. And going back to the running backs for a second, Chase Brown has 16 fewer rush attempts than Zach Moss this year and has gained 19 more yards.
Oh my God.
Zach Moss is averaging 3.7 yards per attempt. Chase Brown is at 5.6. So yeah, you were right. Chase Brown honestly might be more dangerous than Zach Moss. If I had to pick one and said, you know, I need one of these 2 running backs to get me 4 yards and a first down, I'd probably choose Zach Moss. But over a course of a game and the big playability, Chase Brown is way more of a home run threat than Zach Moss. He's forced 8 missed tackles on those, 41 rush attempts. 8 missed tackles on 41 attempts. Those are very good numbers. He is a very elusive back. And yeah, worries me a little bit if Moss is out and Chase Brown is the one getting majority of touches out of the backfield.
I don't love that. I'm with you. And by the way, here's a good stat just to talk about the Jamar Chase run after catch. Of players with at least 25 targets this year, which, you know, that's only 5 targets a game, so that's going to encompass most of the big-time wide receivers, leads the NFL 9.1 average yards after catch per reception. The next guy is all the way down at 7.8. That's Brian Thomas Jr. The next guy is all the way down at 7.2, CeeDee Lamb. So he's almost 2 yards ahead of the third best guy at 9.1. So he is elite in that category.
He's also tied for second in the NFL among wide receivers in missed tackles forced.
There you go. Those go hand in hand.
You know who's number 1?
Wan'Dale Robinson.
Wan'Dale Robinson. 10 missed tackles forced on passing plays. Jamar Chase is tied with a few guys for number 2 at 8 missed tackles forced.
All right, let's go to Rich in Florida. Rich, I hope you're doing okay there with the hurricane, man.
Yeah, John and Matt, we were really blessed. We live right in Satellite Beach. We're right on the beach, and I've been through typhoons, hurricanes, and earthquakes in the Air Force, but that was really scary last night. We had 75 knot sustained winds.
Wow.
And we got up today, and I looked around, and there's no damage to the facility, no trees down. We were double blessed because the power was on the entire time.
God bless you, man. That's great.
Yeah, I lost a little bit of the beach, but the berm that they put up in the winter from the last hurricane is still there. So, yeah, I mean, we were just Ephesians 6, man. Ephesians 6.
Yeah, there were reports, Rich, that I saw this morning that West Palm Beach, there were tornadoes from the hurricane. Is that true?
Oh, that was the scariest part, guys, because last night we had a tornado go through Cocoa Beach, right through A1A. We live about 8 miles due south. And my wife and I went in our safe room, and they had more tornadoes last night in the history of the state of Florida.
Now, Rich, I'm not trying to be funny here, but to me, it's kind of impossible to hide from flooding and a tornado at the same time, right? Because if there's flooding, you can't be in your cellar or your basement. It's flooding. And so if there's a tornado, where the hell are you supposed to go?
Well, you go in, like, we're on the 5th floor, so we're on the top floor, so flooding's not an issue. So every house should have a safe room where you have 2 or 3 walls that protect you. So
got it.
And that's what we did. So the tornadoes basically is a huge vacuum cleaner, and it just sucks everything out. And believe it or not, the people that their house was impacted by the tornado, he made a video of it. Thankfully, he didn't go outside. His daughter and his wife said, come back in the house, and literally seconds later, the tornado hit.
Oh, my gosh.
But thankfully, there was nobody hurt. So
yes, by the way, anyway, PSA for all people out there, do not try to videotape tornadoes. Bad idea.
Exactly. I mean, like I just said to my friends out here, the fellow Giant fans, I look out there, we live, like I said, right on the beach. There's surfers out there and boogie boarders.
Of course they are.
A huge riptide out there. As I look out there right now, and the waves are probably 6-7 feet. Do not go out there. How stupid. But I had a wing commander said some people used to tell us some people will just take stupid pills. I know. But anyway, good. You guys are doing great as always. I just wanted to kudo the offensive line. You know, I go back to 61. And we all know the last 10 years, everybody's tried to fix that line. But everything is a function of the functionality of the offensive line. You guys have talked about that. Just remember, last year when we played Seattle, they had 10 sacks.
Yep.
10 sacks. Daniel's running, well, it was Daniel or TT was running around. You can't have a functional offense. And then you look at Sunday, it was absolutely a pleasure. And I sent this to Dottino and you, too. You know, we've had this issue with the screens. Oh, my gosh. They ran 2 great screens because
back-to-back plays.
I had to pinch ourselves. You know, we had the conference call during all the games. We're going like, you got to be kidding me. 2 successful screens. Of course, you look for the penalty, as usual, Giant fans. But of course. And then, you know, and it's because the line can get out there and pull. It's just so refreshing. So kudos to Joe Chain bringing in those vets. And Illuminor, I just love the guy. And
by the way, Rich, real quickly, they were the right vets because they've tried to do this before, right? You want to go back to Patrick Omame. You want to go back to, oh gosh, I've forgotten a lot of the names, right? You know, Mark Lewinsky will be one. Nate Solder's another. Like they've tried to address those vets before, and it just hasn't worked. And I think the fact you're able to bring in a Carmen Brasillo who knew 2 of the vets that were coming in with him. So you're pairing 2 linemen with the guy that coached him in a previous spot. And then John Runyon has such a long, you know, with a good organization in the Packers and long track record of being a solid offensive lineman. It just worked this time. Finally.
Couldn't agree more. That was brilliant bringing in Carmen because he's got continuity with 2 of the 3 guys. It is brilliant. All right, take care, guys.
Thank you, Rich.
Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Appreciate the call. All right, so I guess I'll give my final thoughts here as we head into the game. Look, I said it before. I think this is going to be a high-scoring affair. I said that about the Dallas game, too. That didn't turn out to be as high-scoring as I thought it was going to be. But the Bengals' offense is a whole nother level. Like, you're not going to stop them. You're just going to contain them. You talked about red zone, right? Bengals have one of the best red zone offenses in football. They're just tied for 5th, 69% scoring in there. They're one of the best third-down offenses. Can you get them off the field? But more importantly, can you stop them from scoring touchdowns? Maybe that's where the Zach Moss injury, if he can't go, will hurt him. Because Chase Brown isn't as much of a bruising back inside the 20. Maybe that helps you. Can you cover those guys in short areas, right? Can you prevent those jump balls to T. Higgins? Can you prevent those little slants to Jamar Chase in traffic? This is another, after Deonte Banks had played a very good game, as we talked about on Tuesday last week against the Seahawks. Can he have a similar performance against, as good as DK Metcalf is, he's not as good as Jamar Chase. If he gets put on Jamar Chase a lot, I think T. Higgins is probably more similar to Metcalf, though Metcalf may be a little more explosive. Can he limit Jamar Chase? You're not going to take Jamar Chase out of the game. You're not going to eliminate him. But can you prevent him from destroying the game? Just prevent Jamar Chase from destroying the game. That's what you're trying to do. If he does that, it's successful. We'll see if he travels with them. I don't know how they're going to work that. We'll have to see. But the Giants' offense is going to have to score some points here. You can't settle for field goals. And that was the point that Wilson, I think, made earlier. You got to score touchdowns in this game. I think you got to score a minimum of 3 touchdowns. I feel better if they scored 4. But you're going to have to score points. You can run the ball in this game. You don't have to be pass only. The Bengals have had issues stopping the run this year. Be a balanced attack. Hopefully Malik Neighbors plays. If he doesn't, it's going to be tough keeping pace, I think, with the Bengals. But look, you're going to have to score points. The Bengals will score. They're rolling right now. They're pretty healthy after being banged up earlier in the year. So get your minimum 27 points to win this game. If you don't score 27, folks, I don't think you're winning. Get to 27, score touchdowns, try to keep the Bengals out of the end zone by any means necessary you can. Maybe you get lucky on some turnover luck. A pass gets batted up at the line of scrimmage. Some dude fumbles. Maybe you get a special teams touchdown like you did last week. Something like that to kind of just change the momentum of the game a little bit, because the Bengals are good. They're going to score some points. You're going to have to score points to beat them. I think you're looking at more than 50 points easily combined for both teams. You might even get to 60, depending on how this game goes. And I think it'll be a one-score game at the end of the game. And you hope that the Giants are the team with the ball last and not the Bengals, because I don't want to have to worry about stopping Joe Burrow at a 2-minute drill where they need a field goal or a touchdown to win. So have the ball last at the end, and I think you'll have a pretty decent shot here.
Yeah, I agree completely on every single point you just made. I will save my full final thoughts for tomorrow with Paul, but I will just say this is just an amazing opportunity for Daniel Jones. It's no secret that the Giants have had 2 home games so far, have yet to score a touchdown at MetLife Stadium this season. Here is your chance to snap that, to get some points, get into the end zone. Daniel Jones, as we talked about earlier, has played well this last month. He has played very well, and frankly, I feel like people are still talking about him the way they talked about him going into the season. Well, here's your chance, Daniel Jones, on prime time, under the bright lights, national audience. We all know the narrative of Daniel Jones' struggles in prime time. Well, here's a chance to snap that streak, to score some points, get this offense going, keep the momentum going from last week. Whether or not Malik Neighbors is playing, this offense showed last week that they can score points. We saw Darius Slayton have the best game of the season, one of the best games of his career last week. We saw Theo Johnson have the best game of his young career. Tyrone Tracy stepped up. The pieces are there. Daniel Jones, this is your opportunity to just, I don't know how to put this.
Shut everybody up.
I was trying to think of a kinder way of saying that.
Screw that.
Yes, to shut everyone up. Go out there, perform, do what we know you can do. And I can't wait to see what this offense and both sides of the ball can do this Sunday.
No, look, you make a great point. And maybe the reason I didn't bring that up is I actually feel pretty confident he's going to. With the way this Bengal defense has played and the way he's played the last 4 weeks. Now, you're right. Home, prime time, hasn't been great. Now, I thought he played pretty well against Dallas at home on Thursday night a couple weeks ago.
He did.
But he couldn't get the ball in the end zone.
Exactly.
That was the problem, and he missed some of those deep throws. Can you get the ball in the end zone, and can Daniel Jones change the narrative over how people talk about him against an elite quarterback in Joe Burrow, one of the best in football. I think that's a really good point.
If Daniel Jones goes out, has a good game, I'm not going to say it has to outplay Joe Burrow because that's very tough for any quarterback in the NFL to do.
But hang with him.
Hang with him. Play well. Lead the Giants to a victory. The conversation around Daniel Jones is going to be very, very different next week than it has been for, honestly, the last couple of years.
And I think this is a big Giants secondary game. It's very hard to get home on Joe Burrow. He's just so good at reading your blitzes, getting the ball out quickly. The Bengals offensive line has been better than it has been the last couple of years this season. Maybe you could take advantage of Amarius Mims over there at left tackle. Otherwise, there aren't any other obvious, in my opinion, weak points on this Bengals offensive line. They do a pretty decent job. Dexter Lawrence always is great, no matter who you're blocking him with. So You're going to have to figure that out, obviously. But this is a big game for the Giants secondary, for Cordell Flott, for Drew Phillips, for Deonte Banks, for the safeties. Can you control the Bengals pass game? Joe Burrow had 5 touchdown passes last week against the Ravens. I'm sorry, 4 touchdown passes. No, wait, it was 5.
No, I think it was
5, right? 5. Against the Ravens. Can you hold them to 3? Right? I mean, I'm not asking you to shut them down, but can you keep them under control? So I think a really big game for the Giants secondary.
I want to give you just one last stat.
Yeah, what do you got?
Because I wanted to bring this up before. Warren Sharp, who obviously has been on the Huddle podcast with you before, put out a tweet yesterday, the best havoc rate on defense. And for those who don't know what that is, which included myself before seeing this, havoc rate is the rate of plays that result in a sack, forced fumble, interception, tackle for loss, or pass breakup. 5 of the key defensive statistics. The New York Giants defense ranks number 1. That's the defense that we've seen the last 4 weeks. That's the defense that needs to show up Sunday night against this Bengals offense. And if they do, then I like the Giants' chances.
And a lot of that is the league leading 22 sacks, obviously, which is going to be a huge part of that.
Yeah.
Good stuff, Citak. Wish the Yankees luck tonight.
Good luck to the Yankees. I would love for the Yankees to join the Mets in the championship series after tonight.
Everybody, thanks for being with us on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Giants TV, download it. It's free on all your smart TVs, Apple TV, Roku, Fire TV, sticks, all that stuff. Go find it. Has all of our content, highlights, everything else on demand for Big Blue fans. Giants TV. Get that app. It's also on your phones. And, of course, Giants tickets, folks. They're still available. Go get them. Giants.com/tickets. There might be some single game tickets available for Sunday night. I'm not sure. But the only way you can find that is by checking Giants.com/tickets. Maybe I'll look after the show. Who knows? Thank you, Dom, stepping in for Pearson, who is at another wedding. Pearson is like
such a popular guy.
I mean, Pearson's basically the Wedding Crashers at this point, right? I mean, he's basically Owen Wilson at this point. I imagine that's how he acts at weddings too, probably, you would think. You think that's fair? I think that's what he's doing, right?
That would be my best guess.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks for being with us, everybody. Tomorrow at Citak and Tino at 12:30. We'll see you then.
Whether you're ordering wings for the game, whipping up a 7-layer dip, or ordering pizza, there's something about football that makes you want to eat. And this football season, Uber Eats has the best deals on game day food, no matter what you're craving. From 2-for-1 pizza to buy one, get one wings. Uber Eats will be dropping new deals each week all season long. Uber Eats, the official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now for game day. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details.
You go into your shower feeling, but as soon as you reach for the Irish Spring, your day immediately gets better. That crisp, fresh, unmistakable Irish Spring scent zings your brain and awakens your senses. So when you finally emerge from the shower, 37 minutes later, because you pay the water bill so you can stay in there as long as you want, you're ready to take on the day and smell great doing it. Irish Spring Body Wash and Bar Soap. Fresh, green, Irish. Shop now at Walmart.